Good evening from Montague, and welcome to the second PC Candidate Leadership Forum. We are live tonight from the Cavendish Farms Wellness Centre. Before we begin, and on behalf of the party, I would like to take a moment to express our thoughts and prayers with Minister Mark McLean and his family during this time. Thank you everybody for joining us tonight. I'm Robert Larson, PC Party Vice President, and I will be your moderator for this evening. I would like to welcome tonight's candidates. To my right, we have Rob Lance.
Thank you.
And to my left, we have Mark Ledwell. Thank you both. Thank you both for being here this evening. A couple of housekeeping items for you before we begin. For our audience, there will be no intermission. Please exit and enter the room quietly. I'd also like you to limit applause as best as possible as not to interfere with the audio for folks who are watching at home. The PC Party is hosting 3 candidate forums during this leadership race, 1 in each county. At each debate, we will cover questions on the topics of leadership, healthcare, and education. The remaining 5 topics covered tonight will only be covered here in Kings County. Those topics are land, transportation, agriculture, environment and climate action, and rural communities. Tonight's debate will proceed as follows. Each candidate will have 60 seconds to answer each question, and then there will be 60 seconds of time for open debate. We will also have a couple of lightning round questions where candidates will have 30 seconds to respond. These will not be open to candidate debate. Each candidate will give a 2-minute opening and closing statement. We flipped a coin before beginning tonight, and Mark will begin with his 2-minute opening statement. Mark?
Robert, good evening. A big thank you to Montague and to the town of Three Rivers for hosting this debate this evening. I have deep roots here in Kings County. My parents were from St. Peter's Bay and Rollo Bay. My wife's mother was a Rossiter from Morel, and her father, Wilf, at 103, is my oldest supporter. Wilf went to work at the co-op store in Morel in 1950. Like many Islanders, I was raised with a clear sense of leadership and that it isn't about titles or ambition, it's about responsibility. That's what this debate is really about. Leadership is measured by the choices you make when people are relying on you, by whether you can earn trust, whether you can inspire the people around you, and by whether you're prepared to act, not just speak when it matters. Leadership also starts with a decision, not encouragement, not pressure, not hesitation. It's a decision to step forward, to accept responsibility, and to own the consequences that come with it. It means respecting the land we've been entrusted with, not just for today, but for future generations, and having the will and the resolve to make clear decisions, ask hard questions, and to act when something just doesn't add up. It means planning and acting before things like brownouts hit Islanders. And it means doing the work openly, responsibly, and in a way that Islanders can trust. Leadership means knowing exactly why you're here and being prepared to carry that responsibility when the moment comes. When people ask me why am I in this race? I didn't wait, I didn't hesitate. I chose to step forward because there's important work to do, because trust matters, and because Islanders deserve leadership grounded in judgment, responsibility, and clarity. My name is Mark Ledwell. I'm ready to lead our party, earn the trust of the people of Prince Edward Island, and win the next election whenever it comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
Thank you very much, Robert. And good evening to everybody. It's always great to be here in Kings County. I was in this room just last week for a meet and greet. And welcome to current and past government officials. I also want to recognize your District 3 MLA, Corey Deagle, for his hard work and dedication to his community. Folks, leadership isn't just a title. I learned while I was serving as Premier that it starts with listening and ends with follow-through and action. Over the past months, I've listened to Islanders from East Point to West Prince. I've heard from families who are working hard, from seniors, and from young people who want a future right here on PEI. And what they're asking for is clear. They want leadership that delivers. They want a government focused on outcomes, not excuses. This leadership race is about more than a title. It's about the future of PEI and our party. Our party succeeds when we stay connected to our grassroots, when volunteers are valued, members are heard, and we work together as one team. That's how ideas turn into action, and that's how progress actually gets made. Here in Kings County, that approach is already delivering results. Work's underway on a new community health center and a new Kings County Memorial. A CT scanner is being added to the existing hospital because access to care should not depend on where you live. That same practical mindset applies across the province. Getting on and off the island matters. Residents of Kings County know that very well. The ferry, lifelines for families, the long-term infrastructure islanders depend on. My focus is simple: what's working, address what isn't, and deliver results islanders notice and benefit from every day. That's leadership I bring, and the leadership our island and our party needs right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Our first question tonight is on the topic of leadership, and we will begin with you, Rob. Over the course of the leadership race, you have both been presenting your visions for our party and the future of the province. However, leadership includes more than vision. It's about owning your decisions and the decisions of the team. How will you hold yourself accountable to Islanders, and what concrete mechanisms will you put in place so people can clearly see whether you and your government are delivering on your commitments to Islanders?
Well, for me, accountability starts with being realistic about what can be accomplished and how long it will take to get there. Plans and promises only matter if you can actually deliver them. As the party leader, as premier, the job is to bring people together, to work together, set the direction, and make sure the team has the support it needs to deliver results. And accountability isn't top-down, folks. It means listening to Islanders, party members, caucus, and bringing people together, being willing to change course when the facts or the circumstances change. There's a lot of criticism in this country about the way power is concentrated in premiers' offices or in the prime minister's office. Well, my leadership style is to empower and build up my ministers. That's why so many of them are standing behind me and supporting me in this race.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
Great quotes. The first is about concrete mechanisms. I've set out a clear action plan on some key issues like Iraq and the Bliss and Wisdom affair very clearly early on in a letter. I've also committed weeks ago, not tonight, but weeks ago, to report on key metrics and topics of concern to Islanders every month so that Islanders are informed. Second, there's a question here about personal accountability. What does that mean? It means by doing what I say to Islanders and commit to it, no matter what. That's what people watch for in a leader. Is our premier, is our leader personally accountable? It's not a question of politics or popularity, but it's a question of trust. Saying one thing several times and then doing another should involve a question of accountability, especially on the important question of leadership, no matter what. Every day, there are decisions to make that affect the lives of Islanders. There are competing voices asking for different things.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
So this is now open for debate.
Well, look, I've outlined my leadership style, and it's earned the respect and the support of my caucus members. That's why I'm here today. I would only have stepped forward with that support, and I've got it, and that's why I'm here. That's where we are, folks. I'll be ready to lead on day one inside the rail of the legislature.
Rob, you talk about plans and promises, but let's think about promises for a minute. You promised Islanders when you took this job, this interim leadership position, I will not be a candidate. Then you told Islanders, you told me, that I will not be a candidate. You started to think about it again. You had second thoughts. You had members of your caucus saying, we want you to run. This comes down to a matter of trust. Why should people talk about your promises and your plans when you would do that?
Mark, this is where we are. I got a team behind me. We're moving forward.
I have a team.
I've explained my reasons.
I have a big team behind me.
I've explained my reasons for the decisions that I've made, and I'll live with them.
No, I don't think you
both.
have.
Okay, on this next question, we will begin with Mark. Leading a government requires skills in managing various perspectives, competing priorities, and often making tough choices. As we know, PCMLAs are strong representatives for their local communities, and each of them will advocate for the different concerns and needs of their district. As Premier, how will you demonstrate to your caucus that you've balanced the many perspectives of the team in your decision-making?
Well, thank you. That's another good question. It starts by including caucus in decision-making. When we recruit good people to serve, we need to listen to them and respect them. That's why we have a range of perspectives. They're found in districts. They're found in our MLAs. Each carries a unique voice and a distinct perspective on questions. In my business background as a leader, I was repeatedly in situations that involved these competing forces, whether it was between Eastern Canada and Western Canada, with Indigenous people, with non-Indigenous people, and internationally with the Russians, with the Arabs, with the Asians, with the Brits, with the French. All of these backgrounds together involves skill, it involves negotiation, it involves understanding and listening to people and knowing that people bring something different to the table. That's what it's all about.
Thanks, Mark. Rob?
Well, I've been right here working with the people of Prince Edward Island, and it has been the honor of my lifetime leading this team. It's been an absolute privilege, and I'm honored to have them supporting me. I'm proud to have such a talented team behind me, and that matters because leadership is never about one person, it's about bringing people together. And every member of our caucus, the same, they all bring a unique perspective to the table, and I think of Robin Croucher specifically as an example. He's a paramedic, and Robin's a strong advocate for first responders, and he's brought ideas to the table that we've acted on, like investments in the fire school and medics, free vehicle registration for first responders for life. These are things that I would not known about. These are things that Robin has brought to the table, and every one of our caucus brings these things to the table. And as leader, my role is to bring those views together, find a shared path forward, listen carefully, weigh the input, and make decisions that the team can understand and stand behind. And that's what we do.
Thank you, Rob. Open to you both for further comment.
Sorry, it's not what you do. And I think what I hear from around the province, from people, is frustration. Why? What's the frustration? Why do we have this wonderful way of making decisions? No, we don't. We have a bunch of people in the Premier's office, many of whom are working on your campaign, and they should be doing their job. Instead, they're out working for you to try and get you elected, who are running things. It's about control. It's about not returning phone calls. It's about forgetting the little things that matter when you're trying to build a team and run a province. So I'm sorry, but these people in the Premier's office who have been with you on the executive of the party, they exercise too much control. Everybody knows it. Everybody's talking about it, and it has to stop.
Rob, would you like to respond?
Oh, you're very good at pointing out problems, Mark, but you talked about listening and respecting. You've been very critical of members of this PC government, critical of our ministers. They've had to call you up and tune you up about some of the misinformation you spread around. It's a very unusual situation. Sometimes I feel like I'm standing here debating Hal Perry. But listen, you've diminished a lot of people's work in this government, and it has not gone unnoticed.
It's about being honest.
Thank you both.
It's about being straight.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the next question. We're going to switch now to the topic of healthcare, and we will begin with Rob. Many island seniors want to age in their own homes, often closer to their families and in the community that they have contributed to their whole lives. Since 2019, the PC government has taken steps to make aging at home a little easier, but rising costs and caregiver shortages challenge home care availability. What steps will your government take to help seniors remain safely and affordably in their own homes, and how will you ensure that these supports are sustainable over the long term?
Well, first, while on the topic of health, I have to take a moment to acknowledge my friend, my colleague, my supporter, Health Minister Mark McLean, who is facing his own health challenge. And I know everyone here is keeping him in their thoughts and prayers. So here is something I hear everywhere I go. Islanders want to age at home, close to family, and connected to their communities. And Islanders who built this province should be able to do that. They should be able to be in their homes as long as it's safe to do so, and the healthcare system needs to be there to be able to support that choice. We need a system that's built to last, though, so that means a strong workforce to provide the care that people need in their homes. And we have been training RCWs, LPNs, and RNs at an incredible rate. We've invested in programs that have been incredibly meaningful to families. Take, for example, the at-home caregiver benefit. I was speaking to a constituent the other day. She cared for her husband who had Parkinson's. He's since passed away, but she was so grateful for the support she received through that program, for the extraordinary effort she made to care for her husband at home.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
Healthcare is something, home care is something I believe that Health PEI does really well, but it can do better. We need to find ways to keep people in their homes longer. Our healthcare budget spends about 3% on home care. In other provinces, it's more in the range of 5 or 6%. So we need to move some of the back office people to the front line and invest more in healthcare. 1 in 10 Canadians in long-term care homes, I'm told, according to federal data, could be home. And there's an improvement in their quality of life, and there's a big financial saving if we can keep people at home longer. So we should consider using remote monitoring technology. That's a proven way to help people stay in their homes, and it's been used successfully, for example, recently in New Brunswick and also in Ontario. The last point I'd make is we have to keep our communities. It's very important that we protect them.
Thank you, Mark. Now open to you both for further comment.
Well, the program I described was developed by this government just in recent years, rolled out. It's been a model across the country. I mean, those are the kinds of results we're delivering. And look, we know what the challenges are, but you know, I just offered you a very real-world example of that. And you know, I've heard about this program a number of times. Another Islander told me that it was indispensable when to keeping his wife at home in her final days. The funding through this program was a lifeline for just the support and the comfort of keeping a loved one at home. And these are the kinds of things we'll continue to invest in.
To that is that we've got long wait times for long-term care beds coming out of acute care. We have to find a way to break the logjam in the system.
Thank you both. We'll begin this question with you, Mark. Last week, Health PEI reported island hospitals currently have a high number of patients who no longer need acute care but lack a place to be discharged to long-term care or to a home with the support of home care services. This backlog ultimately means fewer hospital beds are available, despite the addition of 43 acute beds made by the government in 2025. Both of you, what is your strategy to increase the availability of long-term care beds on PEI? And again, we'll begin with you, Mark.
Thank you. I would start by leaning on the private sector. I've spoken to many in the private sector. They're ready. As part of this, we need to ensure compliance standards and regs are adhered to. There are too many provisional licenses out there. There needs to be more work done on QA, quality standards, and safety. This is not an area for red tape reduction. Remember, we're talking about people here, not beds. We need to be more aggressive in staffing programs, in certification and training, so that additional long-term beds are safe. And in the area of community care, we should promote the not-for-profit model, for example, that we see in homes like the Willow in O'Leary. And our strategy should anticipate where beds should be located in communities supported by medical homes. These things need to fit together. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Rob?
Well, I know we're in a state of system overcapacity right now, and this time of the year, this does happen. There's a lot of seasonal illness at this time of the year, but as our population continues to age, we need to build capacity across that whole system. And Mark, you say we should be leaning on the private sector. That is exactly what we're doing. That's why we're actively adding long-term care beds through private-public partnerships and infrastructure projects. Complex needs get off the patient registry quicker. And this is my time, Mark. And we have to expand our home care services, which we discussed. These are things that we're investing in right now, and we'll keep that up. That's what we're going to keep doing, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Rob. Open to you both for further comments.
My apologies. I thought we were in the debate phase.
Quick to jump in there.
Apologies. Look, my main point in all of this is that we need to find ways to keep things moving. And part of this, and you mentioned it, are the medical homes. So we have to get moving on medical homes. And the people who have thought about this and have written about this tell us that if we can get these medical homes moving in communities and get them spread around PEI, then the seniors' homes, the long-term care homes, the community care homes work better. Why? Because they have access to the medical home. There's a medical home in their midst, and they can lean on it, they can use it, and it will provide more support. It's a wonderful health ecosystem that we need to stay committed to.
Patient medical home model is rolled out across Prince Edward Island. We're already moving to the 2.0 version of that model, which is going to be bigger, better, more resources, better care where people need it in their communities, guaranteed.
Thank you both. The Kings County Memorial Hospital is a cornerstone of life in Eastern PEI. Rob, what concrete steps will you take to continue the work on stabilizing services at KCMH, ensuring consistent care for Kings County residents, and preventing future closures and reductions in service?
Well, we have to do two things at the same time. First, protect the services that we have here today, keep them operating. And that means supporting the existing KCMH, obviously. But Kings County residents need to know that their hospital's there for them now, and even as we're moving forward with plans to replace it. But for example, this year, I mentioned in my opening statement that we'll add a CT machine to the KCMH, and that will improve care greatly. It'll serve as a recruitment tool as well for more doctors. Nobody in this day and age wants to work without this important diagnostic tool, so I'm very hopeful it will help attract emergency docs to the emergency room. And second, we need to build the future of healthcare in Kings County. This summer, alongside with the Kings County MLAs, I announced the purchase of 85 acres of land right here in Three Rivers, which will be the future home of the Kings County Health Campus. So this will be a modern, state-of-the-art hospital that will serve residents of Kings County for generations to come. The site work will begin this summer.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
On Tuesday night, the KC were full, and they couldn't accept any more patients after 7 p.m. I'm committed to ensuring that Islanders have the health care they need close to home, in their communities. We need to get beyond announcements. They're wonderful, photo ops, good for politics, but this government is too much focused on those and not on real plans. We have to have a plan that includes not just bricks and mortar, but the health professionals that we need. Because without that, we just have facilities, we don't have adequate service. That's not good enough. KCMH should be seen as something bigger than for Southern and for Southern Kings. My plan would include creating a community hub with medical home for primary care, enhanced seniors care, and an early years center. I'll work with UPEI and with Holland College to provide the support, and with the UPEI Medical School. Time is up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is this rebuttal open?
Yeah,
well,
open.
It just so happens that this is a campus model that will include the hospital itself, a community health center, probably a patient medical home. This is the way we're designing it. We're designing a full-service medical campus for the people of Kings County right here in Three Rivers. It's not a photo op. This has been years in the making, trying to get the KCMH off the ground here. Corey Deagle is the strongest advocate for this district. He twisted my arm, he pestered me. We made the purchase. It's in the capital plan. The site work will start this summer, ladies and gentlemen.
You did that, Rob, but you've been into photo ops. You had a photo op with you and with a few people. When the bridge fares come down, it was a photo op of you.
The bridge.
When we do all these things, it's a photo op of you. Why? Because you used your office to help get yourself going in this process.
Use my office to advance the interests of the people of Prince Edward Island.
And you've allowed that to happen, and that's on you.
Okay, thank you both. This next question is on the topic of education, and we're going to begin first with you, Mark. This PC government was a national leader on $10 a day childcare for children in early years centers and family home centers, achieving this result for Islanders on January 1st, 2024, 2 years ahead of the national target. Over the last 2 years, the province has provided support in opening 1,000 childcare spaces. Yet, record population growth has left approximately 1,400 families on the provincial childcare registry seeking infant care now and into the future. What actions will you take to continue the positive work on expanding access to affordable, high-quality childcare spaces across PEI?
Well, look, lest I be called negative, as I have been, this is another area where, as a province, we've done some really excellent work. So we have developed a really good publicly managed system with well-regulated early years centers. But we have challenges. We have long wait lists. And it's not just because of rising population growth, it's because we're not planning, and we need to do a better job. We have lineups and a lot of different things, and we'll talk about those, but this is one of them. We should not have long wait lists like this because it causes headaches for parents and it undermines their efforts as productive, hardworking people. So I've suggested that we explore or consider the pre-K kindergarten program for 4-year-olds in our school system, much as they've just done in Nova Scotia and Ontario and the Northwest Territories. It's a proven model. It's something we should consider. I'm not saying that we need to commit to it now, but we should have a look at it. A full-time pre-K program would help reduce the long lists that we have for childcare.
Thank you,
and
Mark.
free up spaces. Thank you.
Rob?
Well, let me start with this. Our early childhood educators are absolutely exceptional. I've met with these ECEs in centers all across the island, both as the Premier and my former role as Minister of Education in early years. And I've witnessed the care and the skill and the dedication they bring to work every day. It's incredible. What I'm hearing from families is $10 a day daycare it's a game changer. This changes the math of the question of whether or not to go back to work for many families. It's very important, not just to families, the stability of families, the social fabric of our families, but our economic development, literally our economic development in this province. But we do need more spaces. We do need more childcare spaces. We're adding hundreds of them. There were 600-700 in the pipeline when I was minister. As Premier, I'll keep going. We need more capacity, high demand in areas that'll keep the system stable. We'll add more in those areas to help more families get their children into these spaces.
Thank you. Open now to you both for debate.
I'm a bit baffled. I mean, here we have an excellent program run by excellent people. That's something that's well known on the national stage. And what do we have? We have lineups. We have long lineups. These aren't trifling lineups. These are long lineups. We have lineups for long-term care. We have lineups for spaces in different programs across the province. We're not planning. It's the same with our electricity problem. We haven't planned. All of the time I hear about, well, we have got this huge population growth. Well, come on. We need to start to think about these things. We need to plan these things. You were the minister. You said it. And it's on us to make sure that we get people into these programs where they belong.
$10 a day daycare. We've been rolling this out for several years now. This is not something that you just pop the balloon and it's there. You've got to train early childhood educators. You've got to stand up facilities. There's a lot of work that goes into this, and we do this with our federal partners, and I should point out that this is only sustainable if our federal partners continue to be at the table to support this program. But Mark's right. In my first week as Minister of Early Years and Education, I chaired a meeting of federal, provincial, territorial partners, and they recognize the system we put in place here in Prince Edward Island as a model system.
Thank you. Rob, we'll begin with you on this next question. PEI has the best early childhood educators in the country. And since 2019, the PC government has invested in lifting the wages for early childhood educators and the development and implementation of a defined contribution pension plan. As new childcare spaces open up, the demand for early childhood educators continues to outpace the supply. How will your guide to ensure this crucial system is sustainable?
Well, I love your preamble, Robert. We have made huge strides in bringing new educators into the system, and this is now a long-term career choice for many people in Prince Edward Island because of those better wages, the wage grid we put in place, because of the benefits, because of the pension plan. And we built that by listening to ECEs and taking action. So more than 100 people are currently in different stages of training, and that's supported, of course, by the province as they continue their education. And we have a full-time early childhood program at Holland College now, and there's an accelerated training model that upgrades, upskills those that are already in the system. So between these two, we graduate about 50 students per year with a diploma in early childhood care and education. And not only that, a recent survey by the Early Childhood Development Association found that their members here in Prince Edward Island have now very high job satisfaction, and we have the highest retention rate in the country. So these are things to be very proud of. It's because of the system we've built, and we should all be very proud of it. That's the action this government has taken.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
Thank you, Robert. It's government's job to make sure that the system is sustainable and has the capacity to meet the demand. So that's a weakness. So we have to do better for our early childhood educators and for the children and families who rely on them. Like Rob, I will work with Holland College to set up a center of excellence for early childhood education and promote it as a career. We need to ensure these educators are paid fairly And let's not forget about that. This is really valuable work. Sometimes the best way to keep people is to pay them. We have to understand why people leave. We need to talk to them. We need to do exit interviews, just like I suggested last week when we have physicians who leave our province. And we have to build centers where the traffic is going. This comes back to planning, something that we're not very good at. If we're building something new and big in Georgetown, like a clean tech center, let's think about how we're going to have the support there with early childhood centers for these people. Same thing here in Montague or in Belfast. We have to.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Open to you both for further comment.
Well, Mark, you talked about paying them fairly, and even Robert in his preamble talked about that. I talked about the wage grid, and we've recently given the ECEs a raise. Look, people aren't getting rich at this. People do it because of a love for the job. But the working conditions are such that I alluded to this. You talked about doing exit interviews. Well, fortunately, we're getting very few people exiting. We've got the best retention in the country for early childhood educators, and that is a testament to the system that we built here that works for people who teach and do the run these programs, and for the children themselves.
So I don't have much to say other than let's get more of them. Let's get rid of these backlogs, please. Thank you.
Thank you both. In 2020, the PC government struck the Land Matters Advisory Committee to engage the public in reviewing and updating land-related policies and legislation to reflect the current and future needs of the province. In 2021, the committee released its final report, Now is the Time, which contained 13 recommendations. Mark, do you commit to implementing all 13 recommendations of the Land Matters Advisory Committee? And what measures will you introduce to strengthen the Lands Protection Act?
No, I do not. The report was prepared by dedicated people back in 2021. It was held back, it sat on a shelf, it was finally released in 2023. The report itself, when you read it, stresses urgent action in a number of important areas. And it was other reports, it's collected dust. It's clear that the Lance government has no idea what to do on land and on the land question. That's why we need change now at the top. Land on PEI is too important to be managed by a broken regulatory agency like IRAC. Islanders, especially here in Kings County, are worried that land is increasingly being bought up by powerful, sophisticated, well-funded foreign interests, while every day Islanders are left in the dark about what's really going on. So I've committed to changing that. I've committed to overhauling IRAC, to suspending Bliss and Wisdom land transfers, and to taking steps to have an inquiry, a real inquiry, not an IRAC investigation, but a public inquiry into what's going on.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
Well, I had to put my glasses on to read the question here, because I was not sure if Mark understood it, because we have already substantially implemented 12 of those 13 recommendations. They've either been fully implemented, partially implemented, or there's a couple that are still a work in progress. But we've made a number of key amendments to the LPA, the Lands Protection Act, since 2021. Tighten up the act, prevent violations of acreage limits, improve transparency and ownership, and strengthen the enforcement. And we've done that through simple things like broadened and clarified definitions, but we've created new rules to treat corporations under common ownership as one entity, stronger disclosure and transparency obligations, increased enforcement tools, penalties, investigative powers of IRAC. This is ongoing work, and we will continue with that work. Right now, we have an amendment before the legislature to close a loophole that's particular interest to Three Rivers, where land under an acre was never considered land under the LPA if it was in a municipality with an official plan. We're tightening that up for the people of Three Rivers.
Now open to you both for further comment.
Please, look, the Lands Protection Act is full of holes. Any lawyer worth his or her salt knows that. People are driving trucks through it. You haven't done anything to close up the loopholes, and then you say that you've implemented the Land Matters recommendations. You haven't touched IRAC. People are concerned about IRAC. IRAC is mentioned in there. You're not touching that. And then there's the whole question of land use. What is land use?
We're getting to that. We're getting to that next. Land ownership and land use, two separate issues.
You've done nothing. You've done absolutely nothing.
I know how important I've learned a
How can you
lot.
stand there and say
I've
you've
learned a
done
lot
something?
about this
Oh.
issue over my years here in government. I've learned about it from Corey Deagle. I've learned about it from people in this audience. I take it very seriously. And I can tell you, it was me who called for a federal investigation to get to the bottom of the land issue in Kings County. I can tell you, the RCMP's federal serious and organized crime unit is investigating right now. They have a mandate, they have the resources, they're doing the work,
Okay.
and it's
Thank
because
you.
I called for that investigation.
Thank you both. For this next question, you will both have 90 seconds to respond, and we are going to begin with Rob. PEI is experiencing growing pressure for residential and commercial development, yet many islanders worry about losing farmland, coastal areas, and the character of rural communities. Recommendation 8 of the Land Matters Advisory Committee called on the government to immediately implement province-wide interim measures to regulate subdivision development in areas without an official plan until a province-wide land use planning framework could be adopted. At present, it is unclear what interim measures have been introduced in this area when a formal province-wide land use plan will be implemented. So, what approach will you take to modernize land use planning across the island so that development is managed responsibly while protecting environmental, agricultural, and cultural assets on PEI? And when can we expect your government to take action on this important issue for islanders?
I have a real interest in land use planning. I was chair of planning in Charlottetown, the city of Charlottetown, for many years, and I respect the profession. This government committed to a provincial land use plan, and as minister, I commissioned our State of the Island report, and this is our starting point for developing our land use plan here, and it's the foundation for the consultations with islanders, and those consultations began last summer. They'll be ongoing throughout this winter, and we're getting great feedback, and we'll use that to guide our development, guide the development of the provincial land use plan. But it's going to take time. It's something we've never had in this province, and we need to get it right. It's a very sensitive topic when you start telling islanders what they can and can't do with their property. And we want to make sure we consider this from all perspectives, and that means listening. And that's exactly what we'll do as we move forward with this plan.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
Look, reports. This report called for urgent measures back in 2021. Urgent measures. 5 years later, we've done nothing. You were the minister back in 2023. You've done nothing. Now you're telling us tonight that we're going to get some more reports because we need to be careful. Again, this is another reason why we need change at the top. The failure to deliver on a land use plan for our province is about priorities and it's about leadership. Where is the sense of urgency on the land use question? There are reports on the shelf, but there's no direction and no decisions. People I speak with, they're frustrated. They're frustrated by the confusion, and they believe that their communities are being harmed by the lack of action. I had an exchange with a well-known islander in December. Here's what he said to me, because it's sobering. He said, in 2025, we lost more farmland, we lost more wetland, we have a forestry report, another report that was commissioned after Fiona, sitting on the shelf, and we have no independent water plan to deal with irrigation. When the land is gone, he said, and the water is gone, they're gone. The Federation of Agriculture has been speaking about these issues forcefully. We need to do better. I will act right away. The approach I have in mind is a more regional approach, but this is an important question. We've got to get it done.
Thank you, Mark. Open to you both for further debate.
Land use planning is, again, not something you snap your fingers and put into place. It takes a lot of careful consideration, a lot of consultation with stakeholders, and I'm confident we'll get somewhere that we can put a framework in place that looks at the interests of everyone in Prince Edward Island, looks after the interests of people who have very strong feelings about their property rights, but also the public good for how we use and develop Prince Edward Island and protect our agricultural land.
Rob, with respect, people are tired of the delay. People are tired of the hesitation. Do you know what this takes? This takes courage.
The
This
work,
is a
the
fi-
work
hold
is
it.
underway,
This is a
Mark.
file
You
that
seem to
takes
think
courage.
you're going to be able to
You
come
were-
into
you were in
government and make
municipal
everything
politics.
happen like
You know
that.
this takes courage.
Gentlemen,
It takes
gentlemen.
determination. It takes will. It takes clarity.
You
gotta
look
get
around
at
this
it.
room at the people
Look,
sitting in
look,
front of me.
look,
They're the people
rocks.
that are doing that work, that have that courage and
Look at
determination.
the rocks down in Point de Roche there, the great big armor stone in the water. That's the kind of stuff that happens when you don't act.
Thank you. Switching now to transportation, and this question will go first to Mark. A two-ferry service from Wood Islands to Caribou is vital to the economy of Eastern PEI. The 2025 season was the first for the MV Northumberland, a used vessel purchased by the federal government to officially replace the MV Holiday Island, which burnt in 2022. A replacement vessel for the MV Confederation was announced in the 2019 federal budget. At the time, Transport Canada expected a delivery date in 2027, which was then pushed to 2028. In October, it was revealed that Transport Canada will no longer say when a new vessel can be expected. The MV Confederation is 32 years old and continues to experience an increasing amount of cancellations and delays related to mechanical issues each and every season. Given these delays, is it time that Transport Canada acquire a second used vessel for this route? And as Premier, what is your plan to stress the importance of the ferry service to the federal government and ensure that a new ferry will sail out of Wood Islands in the future?
Thank you. Look, my position in this campaign has been very clear. We require a permanent ferry service linking PEI to the mainland to support Canada's constitutional obligation to provide a link to the mainland. This started in 1873 with the Terms of Union. And then when we had the new bridge, the fixed link, they amended those Terms of Union. What happens when the day comes when the bridge, that long bridge, the narrow bridge, 2 lanes, when it's closed? Because it will happen. We need to do everything we can do and play every card we have to protect the security of our island. We should not wait for another ferry to burn before we take action. This means having a plan B, a second route. It's essential. I have no confidence or faith in Transport Canada, absolutely none. On the ferry, they've served islanders poorly. Federal MP after federal MP has been trying to hang on. We have to do better. These ships that you talk about, they're not fit for purpose. So let's get at it. This is a question of leadership. We need to go to Ottawa and
Thank
fix
you, Mark.
this.
Rob?
Well, yeah, again, I have to go back to the question, what's your plan to stress the importance of the ferry service to the federal government? Well, first of all, as Premier, I spent 5 months stressing the importance of the ferry service to the federal government. But what we really need is a ferry that works. You know, people can't plan their lives around a maybe service. Maybe it'll be running, maybe it won't. No. So, look, I know the importance of the ferry here in Eastern Prince Edward Island, especially for the families here in Three Rivers. And that's why, as Premier, I took action. I lobbied the federal government to cut the cost of the ferry, and we got results. You know, I will continue to try to get results for that ferry service here in Kings County. The ferry, it's not just a convenience. It's essential. Islanders depend on it for work, for travel, for trade. It's a huge part of our tourism industry here. I'm getting the flag. I've got more to say about this, and we'll get to it in the rebuttal.
Thank you, Rob. Open now for you both.
Look, this is all news to me, that you've been to Ottawa, that you've been advocating for the ferry, that you've been speaking with people. I don't know if you spoke to the Prime Minister about it when you went up to see him there a while ago. The thing is, we have to change our approach. Why didn't you make this part of our nation-building program?
We did.
Why don't you work closely with the Premier of Nova Scotia?
You know what was in our nation-building?
Why do we take a different approach? We have to play every
I'll
card
let you
we
say,
play.
please.
I haven't heard from you publicly on this question for some time. It makes me wonder whether you're scared to deal with it because there's a political cost to make a commitment. Your predecessor wouldn't touch it. He said, no, this is a federal matter. It's not a federal matter. This involves us. This involves the second way off PEI if we ever get stranded here. We cannot allow that to happen. You got to get a bit more serious. You got to get a bit more sophisticated. This isn't going
Okay,
to
Rob.
Ottawa and saying, hey, do you think you can get us a ferry or a used ferry? It doesn't work that way.
Mark, let's let Rob respond.
Well, you talked about our nation-building project. You talked about another route to the mainland in your comments, your original comments, and you talked about why wasn't this in our nation-building project. You know what was in our list in our nation-building projects? a tunnel to Nova Scotia. But the Faroe Islands in the North Sea is an island of, you knew. Darlene wants the tunnel. This is an island nation of like 57,000 people, and they've got 17 kilometers of underground tunnels connecting these islands. It's technology that can be done. We're already ahead of you, Mark. We've talked to the Canada Infrastructure Bank about it. We've talked to a large engineering firm about it. We know what the next steps are to determine the feasibility of it. It's a geological study.
Don't talk to me about unrealistic promises. Please don't do that.
Thank you.
And you got to dream big, folks.
Thank you both.
That key word is dream. Dream,
Thank you
dream.
both. Okay. In 2021, the PC government launched Toonie Transit across Eastern PEI and expanded the service province-wide in 2022. So Rob, as Premier, will you commit to maintaining this accessible, low-cost, province-wide bus transportation service for Islanders?
Well, yes, of course, absolutely. Toonie Transit program's been a great success. It's a good news story. And not only is it helping reduce emissions from transportation, it's changed how people get to work, school, get to their jobs, get to appointments, go shopping. And I've had conversations with Islanders every day who tell me that this service has made a real difference in their lives. Greg, our parking attendant at the Legislative Assembly parking lot, he was living for a time out here in Kings County and commuting back and forth. He's using the Toonie Transit. That's how he got there. It was great. He loves it. And I'm committed to continuing low-cost, province-wide system that helps seniors stay connected. What's not to like about Toonie Transit?
Thanks, Rob. Mark?
Yes, I'm committed to supporting Islanders, especially in rural areas, with low-cost bus transportation service. It's been a good initiative. People can leave their cars at home, and we've had a good partner helping us provide this service to Islanders. But we got to make it more expansive across the province. We need to get it into more communities. It's part of our community building. It's something that we need to do, and we need to keep the cost down because it's an affordability question as well. So by enhancing this service, we'll improve connectivity. And a lot of young people I know, sometimes they're at home, they don't have a way to get to the rink, they don't have a way to get to the ball field, they don't have a way to get to where they got to go. So we have to make this service more accessible, and I think it's a good initiative.
Thanks, Mark. Open to you both for further comment.
Well, yeah, it's a great initiative, and it didn't have to be complicated. It was a simple solution, and many of you in this room have traveled. You've probably been, some of you, to smaller islands in the Caribbean or elsewhere, and you see these kinds of systems, small systems, minibuses, spin around, pick people up, and on you go. It doesn't need to be complicated. We don't need light rail. We don't need giant buses. This is a simple system put together by Prince Edward Islanders, supported by a great entrepreneur here in Prince Edward Island, and it's a great success. So
the other thing
what's not to like, as I said?
There's nothing not to like about it. The other thing I would add, except for getting it in more communities, is I've been looking at the Carry ride-sharing program as a way to help people who are impaired, who live in a rural area or are out in a rural community, as a way to stay off the road. And I know there's some advocates in here for MAD who are helping and working to help us try and beat impaired driving. So this is another form of, I wouldn't call it public transportation, but it's a system that we should support and subsidize if we have to for that reason.
Thank you, Mark. Switching now to agriculture, and these next two questions will be on this topic. We'll begin with you, Mark, for the first question, and you will have 90 seconds to respond. Trade with the United States accounts for 80% of all international exports from PEI and a quarter of the annual GDP in this province. However, when isolating the agriculture industry from those statistics, trade with the United States accounts for over 91% of international agricultural exports. This represents over $1 billion in trade for the province and over 40% of the total international exports from PEI annually. As a result, the island's agriculture industry, and by extension the island's economy, relies heavily on the access to U.S. markets for our products. Yet, ongoing trade tensions and unpredictable border decisions have created real instability for many producers. So, what will you do to safeguard PEI's agricultural exports from sudden U.S. trade actions And how will you ensure that farmers have the stability they need to plan and invest for the future?
Thank you. Just a quick preamble before I answer the question, what will you do? To put this in context, our agriculture and agri-food exports, roughly speaking, $1.8 billion a year. And as a province, we export $2.6 billion a year. This is a huge number. This is at the heart of our economy. Let's be clear about something. We don't control the border. We face real uncertainty, and we need to move quickly and surely to diversify our markets. We have here a crisis. We don't hear a lot about it, but it's a crisis. Are we doing enough? No. I speak with farmers every day. Some of them are in this room this evening. They can feel the effects of uncertainty. It's like a chilling effect. Customers are less committed, markets are more hesitant, and the paperwork at the border is becoming more difficult. No one knows where the free trade talks will land. Supply management is in America's gun sights. I know that for a fact. Trump says America doesn't need Canada and that his country keeps Canada alive. Imagine. Make no mistake, the threat of disruption to our province is very real. So what should we do? I've got 4 or 5 ideas. First, we need a stronger domestic trade strategy. Second, we have a strong diversification strategy. We have to have support for disruptions. We need to invest in innovation and find new products that we can export. We need to really champion the PEI brand. And we have to get into industry stabilization programs, and I'll speak about those sometime later.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
Well, agriculture isn't just part of our economy. It's the backbone of Prince Edward Island. And, you know, we talked a bit about this at the last debate. And, you know, the instability, the uncertainty that we're facing is, it feels daunting. Mark said, we're not hearing a lot about this. I disagree. It's just about all we hear about if you turn on a TV or a radio or the internet these days. But, you know, as a province, we have to start somewhere, and we started with our developing a tariff response plan to help stabilize some of our industries that might be affected. There is a diversification program in there, administered by our Minister of Economic Development, Innovation and Trade, right here in the front. And, you know, we knew uncertainty was coming, and the goal was to make sure island producers weren't caught flat-footed. So we put those pieces in place. But this is a larger issue. We've heard Carney talk about a rupture in the rules-based order. We don't know what's coming, but we've got to be prepared to respond. So we've weathered this storm fairly well just because of our CUSMA compliance with most of our exports, but we've seen firsthand the value of opening doors to new markets. I led a trade mission to Asia in the spring, and we found some great opportunities for island products there. But diversifying markets takes time, and it's part of creating stability and options for the future here in Prince Edward Island.
Thank you. Open to you now, both for further comment.
We all hear about this every time you turn on the television. You see that guy Trump, and that, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about seeing you or seeing Mr. Thompson as our next premier. We have to have clear, decisive, committed, dedicated leadership working on this every day. Not on a leadership campaign, but working on this stuff every day. That's part of the problem we're facing here. When I talk about industry stabilization, I'm a big fan it brings. Costs us a bit more money, but it brings stability to certain industries in PEI, i.e. dairy and poultry. We have to find ways to look at how to stabilize these commodity industries.
Fortunately,
because they're price takers, and we have to do better.
Rob?
You know, from a leadership perspective on this issue, fortunately, the next premier of Prince Edward Island becomes the chair of the Council of the Federation. We can show great leadership as a province with the leaders of the other provinces across this country, and that is a file that is discussed every day amongst those premiers. One thing I would say, you know, it's one thing to say we can open up new markets for our producers here in Prince Edward Island, but they're not all export ready. I spoke to a blueberry farmer the other day. I said one of our blueberry farmers in Japan was he could have sold his whole
Thank you.
crop, but he wasn't export ready.
Thanks, Rob. Okay, moving on to the next question. This fall, the PC government introduced significant measures to support young farmers and new entrants to the agriculture industry on PEI. These measures include online resources to navigating training and mentorship opportunities, sector supports, and government programs such as the revamped Future Farmer Program and the new Young Farmers Low Interest Loan Program. Rob, as Premier, are you committed to maintaining these supports for young farmers on PEI? And in your view, what work remains to ensure that farming is economically sustainable and environmentally sustainable for future generations?
Well, yes, of course. Not only am I committed to maintaining them, I'm committed to growing them. I listen to our farmers, and I work closely with my friend, my colleague, my supporter, the Minister of Agriculture, the Premier, Blois Thompson. And I get a lot of great advice from him. He's very well respected in the agricultural community. So the future of farming depends on productivity, innovation, and lowering the cost of entry. Island farmers have been leaders in really innovative practices. This has really impressed me. Better soil management practices, precision agriculture, the use of technology, even business management practices. This is all helping farmers manage costs, improve their yields, and protect the land. And under my leadership, we want the next generation of farmers to be successful, and we need to make it easier to start farming. So that's why I'm going to introduce the next generation provincial tax holiday. And this will be for residents under 40 who take over a family operation or want to start a business in agriculture or forestry, and they'll receive a 5-year provincial income tax holiday. The cost to get them started is pushing them out.
Thank you.
It's about giving them breathing.
Thank you. Mark?
That, by the way, it's a program from Quebec. These are excellent initiatives, and I support them. But in view of trade uncertainty, in view of the land question, in view of rising costs, we have to do more to attract and develop the next generation of young farmers in PEI. We've got some really strong leadership with our young farmers. I'd like to acknowledge Keisha Rose. I think Keisha's dad is here tonight. She serves as the president of the Federation of Agriculture. And Robert, you yourself serve on the executive as the Young Farmers Directive. So we've got some real hot expertise in here. I've spoken with many, and the entrance costs to get into farming are high. Land values have skyrocketed. It's a good time to sell, but it's a hard time to buy. So I've got some additional for the Premier to think about, or the former Premier, the new Premier. They include, yeah, that's funny. We need to look at support programs. One thing I've been working on is a fund, a private-public fund that will provide patient capital for startups.
Thank you, Mark.
For young farmers.
Open to you both for further comment.
Well, look, you mentioned in your preamble the Future Farmers 2.0 program, very important program. I talked about the productivity gains in farming. It's extremely impressive how innovative farmers are in this province, probably leaders in productivity gains, through everything from as I said, innovation and everything else. But one thing I'm concerned about, this is something I spoke to a farm about, the Living Laboratories program through the federal government, Agriculture Canada. They've signaled that they're bringing that to a halt. It brings researchers who are doing basic research in the lab, applied research in the field, into the actual field with farmers, helps them apply processes, procedures, techniques to increase their yields. It's working very well, and we should all be asking the federal government to continue to support that program.
These once again are plans, and you got to come to the table with some specifics. And what matters the most here are financial supports, ways to get young farmers into the business. Because if we don't have a next generation of farmers, our agricultural industry will go down.
Thank you both. We have 2 questions for you related to the environment and climate action. Governments all around the world are failing to meet their climate targets. A recent report shows PEI managed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions over the last 3 consecutive years, despite the population increasing by 17% in that same timeframe. Despite this, more work is needed to reach the 2030 emissions targets. Mark, are the province's 2030 emissions targets still relevant in today's context? And as Premier, what is your strategy to ensure that PEI continues to achieve meaningful results on emissions year over year?
They're relevant, but it's time to review those targets, and every other jurisdiction, including Canada, is doing it. We need to make sure that our actions are affordable for islanders and for island business. We need also to be more honest. Much of our gain in carbon reduction has been through electrification, home electrification, the switch from oil to electric heat, to heat pumps. That may be good, but not if the costs go up. And Maritime Electric is now driving the costs up. This doesn't work. We've got rolling brownouts or blackouts, whatever they call them. But what is the source of our electricity? Is it clean? When you talk about putting a diesel plant on the waterfront in Charlottetown, which you, Rob, support, that's not good environmental stewardship. We have leaders in innovation in our province, like Aspen Kemp right here in Montague. Our farmers are smart. They engage in sustainability. The biggest source of emissions is transportation, but everyone has to have it. And what do? We've got the highest gas price in the region. So we have to do better.
Thank you. Rob?
Yeah, I agree with much of what Mark said. The targets matter, but the reality is we're living in a changing world, and we have to be adaptable. The targets give Islanders certainty about where we're trying to go and keep us focused on getting those results. But what's encouraging for me is we've shown that it's possible to make progress on our emissions targets while also significantly growing our population and our economy here. So that is encouraging, and it means we can continue to make progress. But they were always ambitious targets, the most ambitious in the country, really, and certainly we've made the most progress in the country, I believe. But we're prepared to adapt as our world shifts in front of us. Priorities could change. That affordability is absolutely key. But the world is changing quickly, and some things are becoming very evident that we need to focus on. People are concerned about affordability, about the economy, about the future of our country and our place in the world.
Thank you. Open to further comment.
So Rob, with those statements in mind, will you publicly this evening say to people in this room and to Islanders that you will stop this development that Maritime Electric is desperately wanting to get approved on the waterfront in Charlottetown? Will you give Islanders that promise?
What I want to see is a stable electricity grid here in Prince Edward Island. Mark keeps talking about us having brownouts, rolling brownouts, blackouts. We have not had, to my knowledge, rolling blackouts.
Wait for this weekend. We've already been warned about it.
Yeah. Well, don't do your laundry on Friday. Look, it's a challenging situation, but many of you, I'm sure there's many of you in this room that have got gas-powered generators in your sheds. We need something for when it's required, when we're hitting peak demand in Prince Edward Island, something to get us over the hump. But whether it's these diesel-fired turbines in Charlottetown or something more innovative that...
I'll take that as a no.
No, look, we've got to move forward.
Thank you,
We've got to...
The Island Waste Management Corporation provides an important service for Islanders. During high inflationary periods following COVID-19, the PC government froze collection fees by subsidizing rate increases at IWMC. In 2025, the government provided $4 million to IWMC, which meant customers got a $40 subsidy for year-round services. Last week, IWMC shared that they will look to replace their aging composting system in 2027 at an estimated cost of $12 million. An efficient, centralized composting facility is an important piece of capturing and keeping methane gases out of waste landfills on PEI. So, Rob, what role will your government play in addressing rising costs at IWMC, and how would you ensure that those supports are sustainable over the long term?
Well, IWMC, they provide a critical service for Islanders, obviously, and our government stepped up when costs were rising beyond people's control. And that was during a period of really high inflation, obviously, but we froze collection fees and supported IDA about the service, quite honestly. And maybe it's time for a thorough review of the service before we go investing in expensive infrastructure that's going to drive up user fees. So, yeah, this has been a bit of a real problem for a lot of my constituents, and I'm moving forward with some drastic measures if I have to.
Thank you, Rob. Mark?
Well, you should, because this is another example of the government that you sat in, sitting back and watching another corporate come in, grab a monopoly, and then do what they do, which is why people are complaining about what you call garbage. Look, IWMC was the brainchild of former Premier Pat Binns, and it's withstood the test of time. My approach to these situations comes very much from my business background, and what I have to say about this you could apply to electricity and a bunch of other things. Are the taxpayers getting good value for money? Who's taking the risk of cost overruns? And remember that one. Is the commercial arrangement truly transparent and competitive? Is there a monopoly in play? Can the service be provided by the private sector at a reduced cost? We see these same questions play out in the electricity file. And islanders are rightly skeptical when they hear about an estimated price. We all know that the price is going to be higher. So in this respect, Rob and others, we need to bring more discipline, and we need to demand more
Thank you, Mark.
when we buy things.
Thank you.
I talked about a lot of problems in my district. I hear about it from constituents, and people have trouble sorting their garbage, and IWMC seems to just be getting more and more strict about it. People have a lot of difficulties, people living on the brink, people, low-income people. It's the last thing they think about, getting the right bottle in the right bag or in the right, and when IWMC leaves it behind, it's extremely frustrating. It's a real problem for large apartment buildings. I've started driving up legislation because I know apartment building owners in my district contracted out the service, but they can't get out of the fees. They're double paying if they do that. So they should be able to opt out of IWMC's fees, contract their own services, or do it themselves if they're not getting service from the service provider themselves.
Rob, the problem is money, and we've got a runaway spending problem. We've got a spiraling debt. I was looking at it again yesterday. It's scary. So when you get into these things, you got to bear down. You have to find a way to save money. Somebody says, well, we're going to spend another $12 billion here. Maybe it'll go up to
$50 million on an
$60
HST
million.
cut.
You got to start bearing down on these things, Rob, because it all adds up, and people are feeling it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, our last topic for the evening is rural communities, and this question will go first to Mark. At the last Leadership Candidates Forum, you both committed to municipal restructuring and taking steps to ensure the long-term sustainability of municipalities on PEI. What approach will you take in rural community amalgamation, and how will you ensure that any changes strengthen services without undermining the character and autonomy of individual communities? Mark?
At Summerside Forum, I was very clear that I would never support forcing amalgamation on any community. That won't change. But across PEI, we have a big reality to confront here. Only 30% in administration, and only about 10% are under an official plan. And we heard about official plans before. And when planning and infrastructure aren't together, when they're not there, development defaults to cities. Development defaults to the area around cities. And we see the sprawl taking place around Charlottetown, less so in Summerside. So it's a place where all communities can thrive and grow, not just a few. Our rural communities are rich in history. They have distinct identities, but they have a lot of pride. The last thing I'll say before the flag goes up is that, Charlottetown and Summerside wouldn't exist but for the communities. They're service centers. The action, where things grow, where the economy bubbles, is in the communities. We got to get behind them.
Thank you, Mark. Rob?
Well, I'm not sure if what we committed to in Summerside was municipal restructuring. I think we did talk about, Mark and I both agreed that we're not going to force municipalities to amalgamate. That's the way I remember it. But as someone, the Government Act under review right now, and I was speaking with a gentleman up in Annandale, Little Pond, Howe Bay, the rural municipality of the other day, and he complained to me, and rightfully so, that rural municipalities support them in what they need to thrive. So we talked about this last week, and I think that we're never going to force amalgamation, but we need some sort of shared services agreement regionally that covers the whole island to reduce red tape and administrative burden on those small municipalities.
Okay, open to you both.
Rob, look, I'm going to depart from something. You keep saying that you're supported by your entire caucus. Well, you're not. Somebody here is not supporting you. But more importantly, and I don't know why you're saying this, I'm not sure where you're going with it, but each of these caucus members, they have one vote. This is about the membership. This is about the people. It's not about strong-arming and having MLAs going out or cabinet ministers going out and signing up people and getting them in the door when they should be working on the problems that islanders face. Who's looking after islanders? Who's looking after these files when they're out using government resources, government cars, government texts, government iPhones?
This isn't all your
signing
time here,
people
Mark.
up? You raised it. You keep talking about.
We're actually talking about rural municipalities.
I think
let
it's
Rob respond.
I think it's completely inappropriate and it's out of
Well,
line.
I think
and
what I'm
you should
pointing
know
out
better.
is the fact that you've
Okay.
turned so many of them away from you, Mark, by criticizing
Oh, no.
them and being so
I can't,
outrageous
Rob,
in some
Rob,
of your
guess
criticisms.
what, Rob? I can't promise
Gentlemen?
them a job. I can't promise them appointment.
I've heard you made a lot of
I can't
promises.
promise them an account. I can't promise them a cabinet position, and I'm not going to promise them a new tunnel to Nova Scotia. That's just not on.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the topics for this evening, and we've now reached the lightning round. This question is for each of you, and on this one, you will actually have 60 seconds to respond, and we will start with Rob. As Premier, what is the most important economic opportunity you will deliver for Kings County?
Well, I think we talked about the ferry here earlier today, and that is vital to the economic life of Kings County. It's the economic link to the mainland. It is a tourism draw. It brings, there were 100,000 more passengers come across the ferry last season. That is a very, very significant lifeline, a spin-off for Kings County. But we've got the Clean Tech Academy here in Georgetown. The clean tech industry is going to grow right here in Kings County. Mark talked about Aspen Kemp, well positioned to be a leader in the clean tech economy here in Kings County. Those are the kinds of industries we're going to support right here in this county.
Thank you, Rob. Mark, same question to you.
The main issues, or the main things that I'm looking at are, we talked about the hospital and the medical hub. We talked about the ferry, which I've spoken extensively about. The other thing is the development of our defense industries. We don't have a defense industry. We should have a defense industry, and it can be headquartered here with Aspen Kemp right here in Kings County. Whether it's Montague, whether it's Georgetown, whether it's Brudenell, whether it's Pools Corner, it can pull all these people in together. I can't find a defense strategy in our province. It's a wasted opportunity. If you go to Nova Scotia, you go to Alberta, you go to Quebec, you go to Ontario, they're all over it. Why? Because there's a bunch of money going to get spent. We have the expertise here. We have deep water ice-free ports. Why the heck aren't we using them? This stuff requires urgency. It requires a push. It needs to be on people's minds all the time. That's what I will do.
Thank you. Okay, the final question of the night is again for each of you, and on this one you will have 30 seconds to respond. So the question is, and first to you, Mark, how would others describe you as a leader?
Collaborator. I've been a mentor to a lot of young people. It's something I'm really proud of. Fair. I've had to pull a lot of people together in my working life, in my business life. I've run some pretty big operations, and I always dealt with people often quietly, with respect. I'm a very inclusive person. I work the corners. Somebody said to me the other day that small things matter. It's small things when it comes to relationships, they matter. That's where the relationships are built. It's the small little things, listening and taking care.
Thank you, Mark. Rob, same question to you.
Well, I don't like to speculate about what other people might say to me about my leadership style, but what I hope they would say is that I'm collaborative. I treat them as my peers, my colleagues. We're a team. I treat them with respect. My golden rule, my guiding principle is the golden rule, to treat others as I would have them treat me. And I've had the distinct honor and privilege of working with a caucus of incredible people. They lift me up, and I try to lift them up every day so that they can reach their full potential and do the best they can for the people of Prince Edward Island.
Thank you, Rob. We've now reached the closing statements, and I would now invite you, Rob, to offer your 2-minute closing statement.
At the end of the day, this is a leadership race, and it comes down to a simple question. Who's best positioned to lead this party and this province? Prince Edward Island is always focused and clear about priorities when we stay grounded in who we are, make careful choices, and remain disciplined about delivering results. That kind of leadership doesn't chase every issue or react to every headline. It stays focused on the long view, on what matters most to Islanders. Today, stand up tomorrow. Islanders expect health care they can rely on, housing that works for families and seniors, education and training that opens doors, and an economy that creates good jobs and keeps people right here in Prince Edward Island. At the same time, we all know this isn't an easy moment. Costs are higher, systems are under strain, communities are growing and changing, and beyond our borders, there's uncertainty, from trade disputes to broader questions about our country's economic security and sovereignty. That's exactly when leadership matters most. I've been on the front lines fighting for this party and for a better PEI for the last 15 years or more, depending on how you look at it. We couldn't get a crowd like this in a room. Back in those days, our membership was nothing like it is now. And I'm proud of the work I've put into this. I'm proud of how this party of the unprecedented list of accomplishments we've delivered to Islanders, from tip to Islanders, from tip to tip. I get mad when someone who hasn't been here for quite a long time comes back to PEI and starts telling me and my colleagues, too, right? That's the attitude that's held us back. That's the attitude that kept us in opposition for so long, and it's the attitude that's going to put us back in opposition if we let it. Others can fight the old Tory fights, they can fight the old battles, they can try to settle old scores. That is not me, folks. I'm going to fight for this party. I'm going to continue to govern, fight for the people of this province, the people I've been fighting for more than 15 years now. I am proud of what we've done, and I'm determined to do even more.
Thank you, Rob. Mark, 2 minutes to you.
Prince Edward Island's best days have never come from sitting on the fence. They've come from people who've stepped forward, accepted responsibility, and made decisions when it mattered. This island was built early in the morning and late at night, on the water and on the land, and around kitchen tables where families talked about what needed to be done and then went out and did it. We can all feel the pressures people are carrying right now. Cost of living keeps climbing. Young families wondering if they'll ever own a home. Seniors hoping they can stay in the communities they help build. Families waiting too long for health care they should be able to count on. I've heard these concerns everywhere I've gone, in community halls, on wharfs, at rinks, at kitchen tables across the province. Different communities, same message. People want trust restored. They want plain talk, and they want change. Change that is clear, responsible, and above all, real. They don't want the status quo. They want decisions made clearly and in the open. They want the land we depend on respected, protected, and governed transparently, not left hanging, unresolved behind closed doors. They want leaders who are clear about where they stand, who will make the call, explain it honestly, and own the outcome. Leaders who understand that real change means deciding, not hesitating, and not governing by half measures. That's the kind of leadership I believe in, and that's the kind of leadership I'm prepared to offer. That's why I've stepped forward, because when leadership is needed, change requires someone new to step up, decide, and to stand by it. Prince Edward Island is ready for change instead of hesitation, ready for leadership that understands the weight of decisions and is prepared to carry them. If you're looking for leadership that is clear, responsible, and worthy of trust, I'm ready to take on that responsibility. Let's renew our party. Let's be ready to govern confidently and respectfully for Prince Edward Island. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening for the second candidate forum. I want to thank our audience at the Cavendish Farms Wellness Center and all those watching at home. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes as well. This is an exciting time for our party and for the future of our province. Our final PC Leadership Candidates Forum will take place on Monday, February the 2nd at the Confederation Center of the Arts in Charlottetown and live streamed online. While the deadline for new members to sign up has passed, if you have previously held a membership in our party that has lapsed within the last 4 years, you have until the call to order on February the 7th to renew your membership. You can do so online at peipc.ca. Join us February the 7th at the Eastlink Center in Charlottetown as we select the next leader of our party and the next premier of PEI. Safe travels and have a wonderful evening.